I'll do that. Okay, so welcome to Freedom Hearts. And I am Dean Marie Mulattieri, and I am grateful to OSHA for putting together this group. And I want to welcome Kendall and Tony. Tonight, we're going to talk about direct action to make a difference. And the reason I'm passionate about this is that I've spent 7 years in the state of California working for a good government nonprofit where we sponsored legislation around election reform in the state of California. Some people think that we can't make a difference, and I can tell you my experience is otherwise. We can make a difference. It depends on what the bill is and who is lobbying on the bill. The worst thing we can do is do nothing. Because when we do nothing, then the legislators have free rein, and those that put the cash in their campaign boxes are the ones who are actually writing the bills. So it becomes very slanted for corporations and against we the people. And that is not the purpose of government. Government is supposed to exist through our giving them that power, and they are to work for us. So I don't really know your political background. When I put this information together, I took it as if I was talking to somebody who knows nothing. And I will send a copy of my notes out to OSHA to distribute, because I have a lot of links. We will be here all night if we have to go into all the information that I put together, because not only are we talking Tennessee, we're also talking federal, because what happens federally affects us here in Tennessee as well. So it's important for us to keep our eyes on both the federal as well as the state. So were you able to take a look at the video on what is bill?
Yes.
Very cute that they did it as a cartoon.
Yeah, and it's really very simple. It really is. And so basically a bill can be drafted by either a senator or a representative. And as citizens, we can go to our legislature if we have an idea for a bill. Also, the people who can do that are also corporations. And so the lobbyists will show up at hearings for the corporations that are asking the legislator to draw that bill and introduce it, okay? So the thing is that we don't want our legislature representing just the corporations. We have to show up if we want to be represented. And that's what tonight is about. And there's many different ways that we can show up. So they'll go ahead and they'll draft a bill. And the person who drafts the bill is called the sponsor of the bill, or the author. And then they will then go to their peers and try to get them to sign on to the bill as a co-sponsor or a co-author. When you see a bill introduced and it has a lot of co-sponsors on it, you can rest assured there's a lot of money behind that bill.
Wow.
Okay. So we've got to pay attention to it. So once it's drafted and it's received a number, it was called introduced. If it's drafted by a representative, it's introduced into the House. And if it's drafted by a senator, it's introduced into the Senate. Once it's introduced, you can find that bill on congress.gov. Now I'm going to send this to you so that, and they will all be hyperlinked so that they'll work for you, okay? But if you want to look at a bill, you can go to congress.gov. And it will also track the legislation for you. So you'll be able to actually go there and see where the bill is in the stream of its life, okay? From there, once it's been introduced, it goes into committee, okay? Now, this is what happens in the state is very similar to what happens in the federal. So the same thing happens in the state. So it goes into committee, and it usually is called an oversight committee. So let's say the bill has to do with vaccination. Then what committee do you think it's going to go to?
Health.
Health, that's right. It will go to the committee that deals with health. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but the best place to kill a bill is in committee. The earlier we can kill a bill, the better. Because when it's in committee, you're only dealing with a handful of legislators. You're not dealing with the whole floor, okay? The wonderful thing about hearing in committee is that sometimes they will go ahead and hold hearings on the bill. And when they do that, we, the people, have a right to attend those hearings and to offer our support for the bill or our opposition to the bill. So that's the first place that we can influence the bill, is when it hits committee, okay? So I don't know, I don't think I've sent out an email to this group yet. Have I, OSHA? On when we were trying to kill a bill, did I send one out that I listed the committee?
I
Maybe
don't
not.
recall that.
Okay, so
Tony would remember.
yeah. Okay, so when I send out a bill, I will always, a bill that needs to be either supported or killed, I will give you the committee that it's in, and I will give you the members of that committee, or at least give you a hyperlink to where you can go and get their phone numbers, okay? Depends on how much time I have to throw the email together. But so then the thing is, when it's in committee, anybody can correspond with those committee members. It doesn't have to be constituents. It's always good if you're a constituent. It's better, right? But you don't have to be a constituent when it's in committee. Anybody can call the office of a committee member and tell the staffer how they feel that their bill should go, whether it should be killed or sponsored.
Is it better to call or email? It doesn't matter.
It does matter, and I'm going to get to that as soon as we get to the section on direct action. It does matter. The best thing that for any of us can do is show up in body, whether it's at the district office, at the congressional office. That's like the primo is show up in person. Now, I know a lot of people are not going to do that, but there are some people that have the fortitude and the interest and the passion to do that, and we need to find those people. And I'll go into, yes.
If it's here in Nashville, I mean, I wouldn't mind going. I don't have a problem going.
Okay.
Here, right? It's
yes.
Not like I have to travel to DC.
Right. That's right. Okay. So we've talked about it goes into committee. So if the committee does not act on the bill, then it dies. And I have literally seen bills die in committee because of lack of support. So, and that's the one thing that I don't see, like these groups on the national level, I don't see them utilizing the committee as much. They wait till it gets to the floor. And then you're in a do and die situation. You're either going to do it or you're not, Whereas the bill has all these stops, and we need to utilize all those steps
Right.
to either support it or kill it. Okay. It may go to a subcommittee for review, and then the committee may mark up the bill. Okay, if they think that it is not right, they may mark it up. So once it's fully marked up and the committee agrees on it, then it will go to the full chamber to be voted on, whether it's the House or the Senate. Now, in California, they had the oversight committee, and once it came out of oversight, it had to go to appropriations. Appropriations was to determine whether the government had enough money to support the bill. In Tennessee, it doesn't work that way. It's left up to the governor to decide if there is sufficient funds in the budget for the bill. So I thought that was a little interesting. Let's see. So it goes to the full chamber for a vote. That's where it's either passed or defeated. If it's passed, then it goes to the opposite chamber. So if it's a House bill and it makes it all the way through committee, it gets passed in the House, then it goes to the Senate, and it repeats that whole cycle all over again into the committees, then to the floor. Now, if it's a House bill and it goes to the Senate and they make changes in the Senate, if it passes the Senate, it has to go back to the House for what's called a vote of concur, that they concur for that vote or they confirm it. So they're saying, okay, we passed it on the first markup, you guys changed it, and now we agree with those changes. I cannot recall ever seeing a bill that went through the whole cycle and then came back for a concurrent vote and then didn't make it. It's, I guess by the time you get there, you're pretty well on your way. Not to say there's never going to be a time, but I'm not aware of it. All right. So once it passes the House and the Senate, then it goes to the president to be signed. If the president approves the legislation, then he's going to sign it and it becomes law. If the president takes no action for 10 days, and this is true in the state of Tennessee, if the governor takes no action for 10 days, then it automatically becomes law.
Oh, wow.
That's the chicken's way. And I've seen that happen a lot in California.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's something we can do there, right? As citizens, we can't do anything once it is at that point.
Yes, when the bill is at the governor or the president, we can still call the offices of the president or the governor.
Oh, okay.
And we can tell them to if we don't want the bill, to veto it, and if we do want the bill, to go ahead and pass it. That's a good question, Tony. Yes. And we do, when I was working on the legislation in California, once we got the bill through the legislature and it hit the governor's desk. Now, California, the governor has 30 days. And so, we're sitting there for a whole month biting our nails, but at the same time, we're out there and we are getting our volunteers to call the offices, and we're sending automatically generated emails to the governor's office as well. Let's see. And of course, if the president or the governor opposes the bill, they can veto it. Now, this is interesting. In addition to no action, if no action is taken for 10 days and Congress has already adjourned, then this is called a pocket veto. So in other words, if he takes no action and the Congress is still in session, then it automatically becomes law. But if he waits until the Congress leaves town, then that's called the pocket veto.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The chicken way of veto.
Yep. Yeah. Now, once the president, like if the president or the governor, and this is true in the state of Tennessee as well, if the governor vetoes a bill, it can be sent back. It will be sent back to the legislature, and they will tell the legislator, the governor or the president will say, this is why I didn't pass the bill. The legislature, if the legislature can get a 2/3 majority vote out of both sides, out of the House and the Senate, they can override the governor and the president.
Right.
So that's a balance of power. That's, that is really, that's a good thing. I like that a lot because it doesn't allow the governor or the president to be king. All right. Any questions on?
It doesn't happen very often. That is 2/3 is very hard to do.
Well, unless you have a majority, and I believe that we do have that in the state of Tennessee. And I know that in California, there is certain times that they will have a 2/3 majority. Yeah. Or they'll be able to, get somebody from the other side to come over. But it is hard. It is hard to do to 2/3 majority. But I was looking at the composition of our legislature here in Tennessee. There's only 6 Democrats in the House.
Is that how many total?
You know what? It's in Ballotpedia, and I will send you that link, and you can actually see what it's actually made up. But it's pretty heavy Republican.
Wow.
On both the House and the Senate, and we have a Republican governor. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. The legislation really should fly through here on freedom in this state, but we have a governor who leans very heavy towards corporations.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on how a bill is made, how it becomes law? It's pretty simple, really.
Yeah, I agree.
And but the thing is, every step gives us an opportunity to either support or kill the bill. All right.
Well,
Now,
committee is the best.
I personally like the committee. It's the easiest to kill a bill in.
Because there are just a few people in the committee.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess the key is now if we know of something specific, we can of course act. But like, how long would it be in committee, like as far as getting together and taking action at that stage and knowing about it?
That's why we have to be organized. I mean, there were times that we had just a couple of days notice and to throw, get people up to Sacramento. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, when I send you this, there's a link on here on how to find your U.S. representatives and your senators. And I always encourage people to put their address in, okay? People get real, can't I just put my zip code? And no, because some districts will split through a zip code. There's absolutely nothing wrong looking up your representatives and your senators. Okay, so you'll get a link on that. I'm also giving you a link to the U.S. Constitution. I think it's really important that as citizens of this country, we know what our rights are. And because if we don't know it, they can take it away, and we don't know they're taking it away. So I actually have this pocket Constitution, and you can pick them up. This one came from the Heritage Foundation, but I have them from other places. But I gave you a link, and you can actually go on the computer and read it. I try to read mine once every quarter.
Oh my God.
And I'll tell you why it's important to keep reading.
I have one too that was given to me at some type of group meeting. and I put it in the bookshelf and there it's at. You read it? Are you kidding me? Wow.
Well, it's really not that long. Let me see how many pages, this with the
It's
amendments.
not the length that gets like, why would you?
I tell you why you do. Because so many unconstitutional laws are passed that we start to think that these laws are constitutional.
Hmm.
So that's why you got to stay on them.
See, that's one of your priorities and you love it. So now we have to find people like you.
I think for
Yeah.
me, it's intimidating, right? Because you can read it, but I'm not sure I will understand it
Yeah.
and be able to decipher, you know what I mean? And part of it is, I think, just getting active and starting to get into it and understand a little bit better. But I think I can't speak for everyone, but I know for me that it sounds boring and intimidating.
And daunting.
Yeah,
But-
and I think for most of us it is, and you know, but it really it's not. It's just it just appears that way, you know. Because remember, our founding fathers were the salt of the earth. These
I have
weren't
to-
all lawyers.
No dispute with you. It's just that it's never been one of my priorities.
Well, it's
And
not for most of
I'm
us.
so grateful that it is one of yours.
Well, I tell you, Tony.
How can a bill pass when it's not constitutional? I mean, the
Oh, they
president.
do it all the time.
Yeah, but all these people took an oath to protect the Constitution, did they not?
Yes,
That's
they
a great question. We live in a very corrupt age.
Okay, what about the judicial? Do they get involved before a bill becomes a law? Not at
No.
all?
Now, there are supposedly constitutional think tanks that they can bring a law to. For instance, we used to bring us to the Brennan Law Center, okay? Very strong bias left. A Republican will bring it to the Heritage Foundation,
Okay.
and there's going to be a very strong bias right, okay? And so the problem with the Constitution is how it's interpreted. And although you would think it, I mean, to me, it looks pretty black and white. And where we get in trouble is when they go into precedents, which to me, I don't think it should be. I mean, you can look at it and say a precedent is there, but it shouldn't be considered law. Because if you got a corrupt judge setting a precedent, now what, we're going to do corruption for the rest of the time? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But I'm
Do you
not a
think that-
lawyer.
And
Constitution.
also, aren't all of these mandates unconstitutional?
Yes and no.
Executive orders?
Hmm.
Executive orders, I think, are
The executive,
unconstitutional.
oh yes, that is unconstitutional. They
Well,
cannot,
what David Icke said over and over again, he said many things during those almost 3 hours. Do not comply, do not comply, do not comply. And we have the numbers, but he said there's 3 groups of people. The first group just blindly, oh, we're supposed to do this? Okay. The second group, he says, they don't really want to do it, but they're afraid not to. I don't want to lose my job. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to go to the restaurant and the health club, blah, blah, blah. So I better do it even though I don't want to. The third group, which we fall into, is forget it. I'm just not going to do it. And we have our reasons. So the first group, forget about them. It's the second group. And I'm going to bring it up really quickly now. Do we want to consider inviting others that have unfortunately been jabbed and also want to fight for freedom and regret being jabbed?
Yes,
Increase our numbers.
I would agree.
Thank you.
okay. I'm going to also send you, there's going to be links on the Tennessee cycle. Though it falls very, very close to the federal, there's just a few little nuances and it's not worth taking time to do it. If you're interested, you can go ahead and look it up. So I'm going to give you that link. I'm going to give you a link to the Tennessee Constitution. And I actually printed it out here. So, because I don't like to read on, oops, there we go. I don't like to read on screen. So I did that. There's a link on how to find your legislature in Tennessee. I'm sending you a link to Tennessee Stands. Now, are you all familiar with Tennessee Stands?
Yes.
Okay. They actually have on their website, Tennessee legislative priorities for 2022. Okay. And it goes through the bills that we need to go ahead and support. The very first bill is wonderful. End discrimination based on vaccination status.
Wow.
It says, as introduced, it designates as an unlawful discriminatory practice certain actions taken by a person, public officer, public employee, governmental entity, employer, or place of public accommodation against an individual on the basis of an individual's vaccination status, immunity status, or whether the person has an immunity passport, makes various other changes related to COVID-19. So this is Senate Bill 2151 and House Bill 2452. So generally, when they do introduce the bills, they'll introduce a very similar bill in each house. Okay, so that increases the chance of it getting passed. So that's one. Then there is a Senate joint resolution for a constitutional amendment for medical freedom, proposing adding a provision to Article 11 of the Constitution of Tennessee to declare an individual right to refuse medical treatment and to require that an individual's other rights not be denied or abridged due to individual exercising the right to refuse medical treatment.
Wow.
And then there's another one on to protect physicians from retribution and access to medications. That's really important. So you guys can go ahead. I'll send you this link and you can go through it and see what bills. I will go through these and see if there are any that we need to take action on. I just haven't had
I was just
time.
going to ask you if you would, because if you could
Yeah.
highlight, I know if I get sent a ton of things, I won't do it. So I'm just letting you know. So if you do highlight it, I'll do it.
Yep, and there's also some bills on election on integrity as well. So yeah, I wanted to do it, but then today I had to take Ed. He's going to get cataract surgery. So today's date. Today was kind of like all, shot. Okay, so you'll have that. Now, getting into the direct action. All right, Tony had asked, what is the best thing? And the best thing, as I said, is office visits or attending hearings, showing up in person. They see you. And not too many people will do it. But if we do it, you want to get a group of between 3 to 6 people. And in that mix, you want a, let's say you're doing this in Tennessee and you're going to go to your legislator, right?
We just 2 more. We just need 2 more people. We're good to
There
go.
you go. And
Yeah, that's surprising. So few. Good.
well, because what happens is that you're going to go in, their offices are really not that big. And you're going to go in, you're going to sit around a round table, you're going to meet with the chief of staff. Very seldom will the legislator meet with you. You will meet with the chief of staff. Okay.
So do you need appointment?
Yes, you do. Yeah. So, whoever is coordinating it will call and set up the appointment. And then you want to, whoever's going, you want to kind of get together and discuss what are the main points that you want to bring out. And then you want to assign those main points so everybody gets a chance to talk. So you don't want to just have one person and everybody sitting there just going. You want them to see that everybody is just as passionate about how you feel about that bill. Okay. Even if it's just one sentence, just let everybody say something.
Right.
So when you go there, you want to make sure that, you want to bring whatever documents with you that you're going to present in support. if you have any. You may or you may not. And then once you've met with them, of course, you thank them for the time, and you want to ask for a follow-up. Would you like me to call you on such and such a day, or would you prefer an email? They're going to say an email. And so pick up a card, pick up the legislator's card and pick up the chief of staff card when you go. Okay. Then follow up that meeting with an email. If they do not respond to the email, then call. They have to know we mean business. Okay. So when you do this, you're going to, first you always thank them for meeting with us. And then you say, we're here today to discuss bill such and such. And can you share with us what Representative Joe Schmo's view is on this bill? Now they're going to be coy. Very seldom, unless it's a bill that has like everybody in support of it, they won't tell you where they stand on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and some of them are really sneaky. They'll go, well, we don't discuss that until it's ready to hit the floor.
Really?
Yeah, but that's okay. Try to get it out of them. And if they play coy, just let it go. And they say, well, we're here to state our position on the bill, and this is what we feel and why. Therefore, we would like to have, Representative Joe Schmo vote no on this bill, or vote yes on this bill. Okay, so you're going to give them a course of action. This is what we want. They work for us.
And so do you hand them something, or do they just take notes?
They take notes. Yeah.
And I would assume that many people call for an appointment, I would think. So are they accommodating to everybody who requests an appointment?
A lot of people don't call. They're shocked when people show up.
Oh,
Yeah, because they have trained us to not get involved in the process.
Mhm. Yeah.
Things broken.
All right, so after office visits or attending hearings in person, the next most effective is the phone call. Okay. Phone calls are very, very easy. You want to call whoever your legislator is, whether it's the representative or the senator. It's best that you are a constituent. So when you call, now you're not going to talk to them. A staffer, basically a secretary, is going to answer the phone, and they'll say, so-and-so's office, how can I help you? And then you just say, hi, my name is Dean Marie Mulattieri. I live in Clarksville. I am a constituent of Representative Mark Green, or of the representative, and I'm calling in reference to House Bill 2452 to end the discrimination on vaccination status. Can you tell me what Representative Green's position is? And again, they'll probably won't, or they'll say they're against it or they're for it, and say, well, I would like for you to please record that I would like the representative to vote yes on this bill. Okay. It's very important that we not only try to kill bills, but to push good bills through. All right, so it's just as important that we make those phone calls on good bills as it is on bad bills. Because they're going to have big pharma at their doorstep, threatening to pull the money out of their war chest. Okay, so they've got to see your face. The only thing that legislators are more fearful of than losing their money is losing the vote of the constituents. So if you're a constituent and you're telling them, this is a very, very important bill, and I'm going to have to think twice if I cannot count on my representative to support this bill.
But when you're only 6 people, they're going to say, well, 6 people, that's no big deal. I have 10,000 more.
Well, yeah, but then there'll be another group and then another group. You see what I'm saying? And if not, it's still somebody showed up. But the phone calls, that's where it comes in. And again, Tony, you made the statement, it takes a lot of people, and it does. Now, what we did in California, and I've got to call Gary Hubble and find out what the heck he's doing.
Who's that?
Humble,
He-
very humble. He's
Yeah,
the
we-
one, yeah.
He's from Tennessee. He's the guy, I guess, CEO or whatever of Tennessee Stands.
Oh, okay.
Are you aware of any other organizations like Tennessee Stands?
Well, I joined a group called Moms for Liberty. It's separate, but they have some overlap. They've done some things together apparently. They actually had a thing tonight, downtown Franklin where I am. And what's her name? DePriest, AJ DePriest was speaking there.
Okay.
I was gonna go and I got late with my kid and didn't make it. But so Tennessee Stands is very active around here too. I think Gary lives in Franklin.
Okay.
So they've done some stuff downtown Franklin quite a bit. But as far as other organizations, I think there are a couple of other organizations that are seem to be growing.
We need to find them and we need to find out what they're doing in regards to direct action. Okay. Because what we need to do is, like, if we build Freedom Hearts, right? Then, and you got Moms for Liberty, and then you got Tennessee Stands. Then we form a coalition.
Yeah.
And somebody has got to have a database, and I'm thinking it's Tennessee Stands has got the database, but is it really big enough to be as influential as it needs to be? I don't know. We at California Clean Money Campaign grew the largest volunteer database in the state of California.
Wow.
And how we did it is that every time that there was a bill that we were supporting or trying to kill, we developed paper petitions, and we would go to whatever political event was going on, whether it was a Democratic Party meeting, the Republicans won't let you in unless you're Republican, or if it was a march, we would be there with clipboards and get people to sign in support or whatever the petition is, to kill or to support. We then imported all of those addresses with their emails into our database. And then we were able to use those we got their phone numbers, their address, and their email. And then we were able to use those to send out emails to get them to call the legislators or to come to a hearing. Many times we had over 100 people show up at a hearing.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
a lot.
it's really effective, really effective. And what's really effective is when you gather 10,000 signatures and you run that all off on paper and you walk into a hearing and you slam a stack of paper this thick on the table and you say, these are all the people who want this bill killed, or these are all the people who are in support of this bill.
Wow.
So somebody's got to do this. And I don't know if Tennessee Stands is developed far enough and is doing that, but someone has got to take the reins and get a database going. So
That
That's
might be a paid job for you, a position.
well, I gotta call and see if I can get a hold of him and see what he's doing. Okay, so phone calls. We've already, so how do you feel about, I think you all have done it, right? Both called.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I actually called with your direction. Was it 2747 bills? Senate Bill 2747. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's been, a few months ago now. We tried it, and I talked my mom into doing it, and she was all nervous about it, but it worked.
Yeah.
It was so easy, right?
If I know, if I am directed where to call, who to call, what to say, somewhat, it's not hard at all. And it's just It's just a secretary or somebody answering the phone.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was a good exercise too. It helped me kind of get over that. What's the word? We demystified it for me quite a bit. Like, okay, this is not a big deal. I can do this.
It's, yeah, once you do it once or twice, then it's kind of like, take this down, woman. This is what I'm saying.
Well, it's
It
empowering.
starts getting like a
Yeah.
little bit.
Empowering. It's empowering to know that, you know, that our part counts and we should be doing that. It's
That's right.
like, oh, okay, I get it now. So
I had one staffer push back on the TPP with me, and I'm like, oh, she doesn't know who she's tangling with. And I went head to toe with her, man.
ah,
All right. After phone calls is emails. Now, most legislators have contact fill-ins on their website. So you just have to go to their website, go to contact, and now I don't know, I haven't done it here in Tennessee. I know in California, there's a subject that with a drop down, and you have to kind of like say what the email is about. Has anybody done that?
Yeah.
And Tony, is that, do they do that?
Well, I did it for another senator, Ron Johnson. It was something else, but I don't know about Tennessee.
Oh, okay. All right. Usually I know in California, especially when we were trying to push bills through when they hit the governor's desk, if you go to call the government, go to the governor's website, he's got all the bills. So it's just be sure you pick whatever is the correct title for your email.
But the emails are not as influential, right? I mean, phone calls are better.
Yes, the phone calls are much better. So I did this in order of the start here in person, then we do the phone calls, then the emails. Okay. If you feel like sending mail, do not use a letter with, inside of an envelope. No envelopes, just send postcards.
Wow.
Because the envelopes, they have to go through security, and it may or may not get there.
okay.
And then petitions, excuse me. A lot of people don't think petitions work, and I'm here to tell you, yeah, they do. And because they also, if you submit them on paper, now I'm not sure about Tennessee, but in California, they would not accept electronic petitions. They had to be on paper. Okay. So if you submit them on paper, they have to become part of the bill as in opposition or in support.
Really?
Yeah. So if you do 10,000 signatures, that's 10,000 people in support of that bill or against it.
Wow.
Yeah. Be careful of online petitions. Sometimes organizations will use them to just build up their database. Is what they're doing, and they do nothing with it. I do not sign anything on change.org, and I don't do anything, of course, on moveon.org. On moveon.org.
They used to be good.
Yeah, until they got George Soros money.
Yeah, totally changed.
Yeah, but there are some good ones out there, and I can't tell you right off the top of my head, but just be careful. They should tell you what they're going to do with it.
So, Dee Marie, it seems like it's important to get some of these petitions or create a petition and get people out there, having people sign them.
Yes. Yeah.
My main focus is the freedom part. I don't want United States to become like China. And David, I talked about that too. And seems like many people are not aware of what's going on in China for their citizens. And it can happen here. We're on our way, and that's my main focus.
That's the plan.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
And people are confused. I had a friend, an acquaintance, who was a psychologist. And when I talked about the vaccine passport being a precursor to social credit, he's like, well, we already have social credit. Thank God we have social credit. Otherwise, I wouldn't know who to rent my house out to. And I went, whoa, you're confusing financial credit with
Right.
social credit is
Right.
a big difference.
Mhm.
So I had to explain that to him.
Everything is monitored. And if you get enough demerits, you're cut off completely. You can't even live a life. It's horrific.
Yeah.
Starve.
Okay, so we talked about the going in person to the district offices. We talked about the phone calls. We've talked about emails, postcards, petitions, and I did talk about hearings. And the one thing that usually when you go to hearings, if you have a large group, you're only going to get a minute. And so you just get up to that microphone, you state your name, where you're from, and you want them to vote yes or vote no on the bill. And then you go off and you let the next person. They do not want you going into a whole repertoire of why. Okay. It's just you're showing up to show you're a number, basically. You know, I am your constituent. This is what I want from you. Now, if there's only a few of you, you can maybe talk, 2 or 3 minutes. But generally, like I said, we always brought about 100 people. So it was 1 minute per person.
Mhm.
Any questions on anything that I've covered so far?
No?
How do you feel about it? I mean, does anything that I have said, does it feel like it's something that you can do?
Well, yeah, of course. Now, what I'm surprised about Tennessee's TAN, I would think they know all these things, but they don't seem to be effective.
I think he's a lawyer. I don't think he's an organizer.
Okay.
I think his forte, and I think he does a great job, is being down there, tracking the bills, and maybe talking to the legislators, and then reporting back to us.
Mhm.
He does a really good job reporting back to us and deciphering the bill.
Mhm.
But there's a difference between a lawyer and a campaign organizer.
Okay.
And I don't know if he has a campaign organizer,
Wow.
So I'm going to reach out to him and
Good.
see where he's at with that, because I certainly could help him.
You're looking into a career. I really recommend you.
Well, it's really interesting because I ended up falling into that position because I was let go. I was an office manager for Takeda Pharmaceuticals, which is the 15th largest pharmaceutical company in the world. And they let me go because they consolidated, did a merger. And I'm out there trying to get a job. And I had run for Congress in 2012. And the person who had hired me for a job, his wife did a Google search on me and found out that I had run for Congress and told her husband to get rid of me.
Wow.
Wow.
They called the staffing agency and just blasted him. At that point, the staffing agency wouldn't even touch me.
Hmm.
So you try being, like 50 years old and trying to get a job. And it just wasn't happening. And a friend of mine had the position at California Clean Money Campaign. In fact, I had trained him on public speaking, and he had gotten called back to his $80,000 a year job. So he hightailed it out of there, leaving a position open. He knew about my background in March Against Monsanto because I had organized 4 different marches and the TPP. And so he recommended me, and that's how I got the job. And I mean, I took it because I literally needed the money, I mean, I needed a job. And thinking to myself, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And then here I am now. And I'm like, now I know why I did it, why the universe put me there,
Right.
because I do have the skills to help mobilize, citizens to do what we need to do. Because if we don't do it, the corporations are going to just.
More important now than ever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and mail this over to OSHA. So OSHA can send it to y'all, okay? And I highly recommend, you know, looking at the links and then, you know, use this as a reference because, you know, you'll be able to go back. I really don't think I missed anything on here. I even put a list of the 2020 bills that are in the legislature now. You can go through all the bills if you want to.
Wow. Thank you. You put a lot of time and energy and effort into it, and I appreciate it. We all appreciate it very much.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for allowing me to share. And, you know, I'm available if anybody has any questions at all, you know, I'm always available. Just send me a text or shoot me an email. If you shoot me an email and you don't hear back from me quickly, send me a text because I'm not the best at checking my emails.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all I've got. OSHA, did you want to bring up anything?
Well, I mentioned it just a little while ago about whether we should, if you want to entertain the thought of inviting others. I'm
I'm going to go ahead. Wait 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.
Oh, yeah, yeah.